Ever been in a multi-games map, had Sliderace picked, then watched in awe as your teammate or enemy wipes out the entire opposing team by finishing the fastest? Have a burning desire to compete with those players? Look no further. Welcome to my video tutorial for completing the Sliderace selection on the map, all in one velocity. You see before you annotations to all the sections of this video. In the first section, I'll show you the exact steps to download and play the practice map I've made. I'm making this tutorial for all skill levels, so bear with me. There are also quick navigation links in the description, and you will see this menu screen after every section. If you're interested in the mechanics, quirks, and my personal commentary of the map, I recommend watching all of the sections. If you just want to know how to beat it fast, skip to section 5, where I will teach you exactly how. Let's start at the beginning. I've made a practice map for the Sliderace so that you don't have to mess with the start room in the actual map, or the auto killer after 5 minutes, or the wall that appears when you finish so that you cannot repeatedly practice finishing it. This map is an exact copy of the original, retextured with as similar textures as I had available. None of the actual gameplay is changed. To download this practice map, have annotations enabled and click this one. There is also a link in the description. I'm using Firefox with AdBlock enabled. If you do not have AdBlock, beware of MediaFire and its attempts to get you to install things you don't want. Save the file. It will be automatically saved to your Downloads folder. With Firefox, you can simply click the Downloads button, right-click the download, and select the Open Containing Folder option. Open your Steam folder. In Windows 7, Desktop is by default pinned to the Programs list, so is the Downloads folder for that matter. Go to my computer and open the hard drive with your Steam folder in it. If you have Steam libraries on multiple drives, open the Steam library with Counter-Strike source in it. Follow this file path. It is also in the description if this is too fast. Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Counter-Strike source, C-Strike, Download, Maps. These are your downloaded maps. Here you can add new ones and delete old ones. I have a bunch of test maps because I have a habit of saving several iterations of the same map. I've had bad experiences with losing progress while mapping. Move the downloaded file into your maps folder, or copy it, your choice. Open up the game, select the Create Server option, and find the practice map. Yours should be much closer to the top than mine. Select it. I also recommend changing the freeze time in game settings to 0, so you won't be frozen for 5 seconds at the start of every round. Then hit the Start button, or enter on your keyboard to load up the map. Congratulations! Now you can practice without the hassle of the original multigames map. If you finish it, you'll be teleported back to the start, a sound will play, and you'll get a chat notification. You can keep playing it without having to start from the original spawn room and worry about being killed after 5 minutes of playing it. In this section, first I'll talk about how Slideraces work and how movement in midair is controlled by the server settings. Then I'll go over some things in the level design. There are a few quirks and misconceptions about the level that I'll go over, as well as some helpful demonstration of teleporter locations. Now let's go over a little bit of technicality on trigger pushes and what they do in a level. Air strafing is a term for using your A and D keys in midair to change your flight path into a curve in the direction you determine. It is essential for bunny hopping as it allows control over your jumps and speed gains with your jumps. The best way to practice strafing is to play an ice skate level. The clip demonstrates a technique called circle jumping or hook jumping, which can be used to jump around walls that are parallel to or even jutted out from the edge of a floor. A slide race works by having something called a trigger push throughout the level. This is essentially a large invisible force that pushes you in a direction. I will be referring to it as an entity because that's what the source engine calls it. The speed can be varied. A push circle map has the trigger push on the floor, only a few units in height. A slide race trigger push covers the whole area, floor to ceiling. This is why in a push circle you can control yourself by strafing every time you jump, but only a little bit if you do not jump. Every time you jump, you leave the effects of the trigger push entity. Having a trigger push from floor to ceiling makes it so that when you jump, you do not leave the effects of the force. You can only control yourself through strafing inside a trigger push to a much lesser degree than outside of one. These clips are attempting to demonstrate this so that you can understand what I'm saying. Here's a Hammer Editor view of the area directly in front of the booster. Hammer Editor is the program that maps for source engine games are made with. Triggers are delineated by the transparent orange polygons with trigger written in black all across them. The triggers on either side of the lane that do not extend to the ceiling are teleporters back to the start. The ones that do extend to the ceiling are the trigger pushes. As you can see, the area in front of the booster is open. In other words, you have a free range of motion within the Airaccelerate of the server, 150 for those who are curious. Click this annotation to skip past my long-winded explanation of Airaccelerate. Air acceleration is just a term for the amount of control you have by strafing in midair. The default for Counter-Strike Source is 10 and is what you will find in most stock servers. This makes it so that you have very little control over yourself in midair. At the 150 setting, you can do a 180-degree turn in quite a small space. You will only notice that you can't turn extremely sharply if you're traveling at very high speed. You will notice if you simply flick your mouse near instantaneously behind yourself after a jump while holding a strafe key. You won't change direction much at all. It is set on the server to 150 by most minigames maps. The console command to change it is SV_Airaccelerate, one word, space, then the number. To enable the developer console, go to Options, Keyboard, Advanced, and check the box. To see what the Airaccelerate is, type in the command, but without a number. You must have cheats enabled to change the Airaccelerate on your own server. To enable cheats, type in SV_cheats space 1. And now I'll cover the teleporter locations and a few not-so-secret tricks to using their positions to our advantage. Getting back to the Sliderace, here's a screenshot of the trigger in spawn. The only thing it does is starts that bar you see in front of the booster moving downwards. It also starts the bars that go along the water, but that's unimportant. The highlighted blocks are the teleporters on this piece. Note that the very front side pieces do not have teleporters on them. You can hit there and still salvage your run. These are the locations of the teleporters on the pillars, and these are the teleporters on the crouch, jump, crouch part. Notice how on the sides there is a path that does not require you to go through the more difficult section. It's basically a skip, a free pass. It also makes a super fast speedrun possible, which I will showcase later. You can't touch these highlighted pieces at all. Again, notice the outside edges. There are not teleporters on the faces closest to the camera. You can run into those, then crouch jump up to get on top of them. This is also a skip or shortcut. The trigger in the background is what activates the floor to break, which you will see the exact position of in the next screenshot. Closer view of the activator. This is the exact location of the breaking floor. As long as you know it's there, it's quite easy to jump over it. Here are the locations of the teleporters on this piece. It's not very important that you know, because if you don't make it to the top of the platform, you will be teleported back, period. Note that there are no teleporters on the bridge thingy. And here are the final teleporters. Again, not really important that you know, because it has no effect on strategy. You can't see it here, but the trigger push ends at the front of the ramp. Forward from that is free strafe control. Here's something not many people know about this map. It may look like if you use the water path you're going to hit a wall, but in reality that's a fake wall. There's actually a ramp there, as shown by this hammer editor view screenshot. Here's the side view. The selected area is the water. Here's the stairway in the map. As you can see, it's actually a ramp. The thing is, the blocks, or polygons making it up, are split where the textures change. This results in something called an edge bug. Sometimes, never consistently, if you hit it just right or you're holding your mouth wrong when you hit it, you'll lose some speed getting up it, ruining your run. It's frustrating, trust me. Now let's look at the end of the level. When you pick up the M249, you cause all the players to be teleported to the spawn, and the transparent wall locking them in spawn to appear. You actually have to walk through the end teleporter to enable knives to be given to all the players, at the rather short delay of 5 seconds. To have a knife fight, you can either avoid the gun and go through the end teleporter, or drop the gun after picking it up, then walk through the end teleporter. I recommend the latter, because with the former, the wall blocking players into the start area is not spawned, and other players can win the map and ruin your knife fight. If you just want to kill everyone without worrying about them getting knives and stabbing you, pick up the gun, then walk off the platform backwards or to the sides. And finally, the water. You may be wondering how to use the water pass. I wasn't sure whether this should be in this section or the one where I explain how to beat the map, so I'll put it in both. To float on the water, simply hold crouch and jump at the same time while in contact with the water. As long as you don't hit the annoying bars going into the water, you'll be fine, and the exit ramp will give you a smooth transfer to the regular floor. In this section, I will explain what I've done for the practice map. In other words, what I've added to it and changed about it. Let's start with an overview of the map. At the most basic level, I simply copied and pasted the Sliderace from the original map into a new map, and retextured the whole thing. All the textures are very similar, except perhaps the glass one, which is nowhere near as transparent as the one used in the original. I've removed the wall that appears after you finish the map, and also the gun at the end. There is only one spawn anyway, so it's not like you'll be fighting anyone in this map, or beating them in it. You might notice that I removed the water on this entire cylinder. That was intentional, and it has absolutely no effect on the gameplay. The %speed platforms are self-explanatory. Walk onto one to change your speed. The booster practice is also self-explanatory. Don't set any store on where you hit this wall as long as you can hit it consistently. If you don't know how I'm getting so much speed, don't worry, I will explain it in detail later in the video. Section 5 to be specific. Why do I have the booster practice? Your guess is as good as mine. It only has the minor advantage over the one in the actual map of being able to teleport back to the start of it a tiny bit faster. If you can't seem to get the boost, it is useful, I suppose. In this section, I will discuss the methods for completing the map conventionally, and that there are shortcuts that make it very easy to complete unconventionally. I will also discuss the methods for completing the map using the fastest paths and their advantages and disadvantages. First, here is a completion of the map, going through the two difficult areas. The pillars section is easily the hardest part of the map. At half speed, you can really see the precision required to get past the pillars. While not impossible, it is remarkably more difficult than the alternative. The second, slightly hard part is the crouch jump crouch section. It's actually not that hard once you get the feel for the timing. Conventionally, you either use the booster and bunny hop, or use the side paths, time the jump through this weird piece, and then face the pillars, the crouch jump crouch area, the water, etc. I'm not going to bother teaching you how to pass these sections, because they can be skipped by a booster trick and going along the outside edge of the map until the staircase. The single thing that makes this Sliderace a piece of cake is this side path right here. You can access this path no matter which start you use, and the only real difficult part is the staircase up to the bridge. Most of the time I consider it to be bad luck to fail, because it's pretty lenient with how much speed you have getting up to it. I'll teach you how to pass the staircase in section 5. The last section is also extremely easy if you've had any experience at all with air strafing. You don't have to worry about speed at all. Now let's look at the fast methods and the super fast method. Here's the path I always take. Completion time is around 13.3 seconds. You'll be able to salvage this run with only a small loss of time if you run into the front piece. The greatest danger is an edge bug on the staircase. Here's the fastest possible way to beat the map. Completion time is in the vicinity of 11 seconds flat, from the time you're in the spawn glass tube to when you would pick up the gun had you done it in the real map. As you might have guessed, the super fast method is very inconsistent. Let's look at some of the ways the super fast method can go wrong. Some of them are salvageable, but most of them aren't. However, they are all related to the amount of speed you have out of the water path. The bars going across the water won't be a problem on your first try, but after that, you've got them to contend with as well. The most common problem is too much speed out of the water path. It results in becoming airborne off the ramp out of the water. The super fast method uses this to get all the way over the breaking floor, but usually you won't have enough speed for that, and you'll end up in the pit. Other times you'll make the jump, have enough speed to fly over the bridge, but not quite enough to get on the platforms past it. The final problem is getting the best booster jump consistently. Dodging left around that middle piece without hitting a wall and losing speed is harder than it looks. Here's an edge bug. You have plenty of speed, but as you're going up the ramp, you suddenly lose most of it, making it impossible to get onto the bridge. This is enraging, and as far as I know, it's just bad luck. The only problem with the method I use is getting the stairway bridge jump consistently. Other than the occasional edge bug, though, you can practice this one until you'll get it every time. I'll teach you how to practice it in the next section of this video. And now, finally, the one you've all been waiting for. In this section, I'll teach you how to beat the map using my fast method. To get this speed boost, you simply double tap crouch the instant you touch the booster. It takes some practice. My pinky finger always seemed to slip off the control button when I first tried to do it, at least for the first bunch of times. To practice this, just use the map's booster practice area. As I said before, it doesn't matter where you hit the wall as long as you can hit it. If you aren't hitting it, you aren't getting the speed boost. Once you start getting the boost consistently, you're ready to start practicing in the actual map. If you're struggling with it, go to 50% speed and play around. I've found that holding the first crouch down a tiny bit longer than the second one makes the boost more consistent. That may be all in my head, but give it a shot. Once you've got the boost down, you'll need to be able to time it such that you can get over or under the bar that goes up and down. This shows you when you can safely go with a boost. Keep in mind that if you're practicing at 50% speed, you should start earlier because the bar still moves at the same speed when you're at half speed. Let's watch that again in 1/2 real time. Risky means that if you go, you're probably not going to make it. If you're experienced, you may be able to hit the back button in time to make it in some cases. Rewatch this several times or until you find visual cues on the map to tell you when you can go or not. Notice that on the upwards motion of the bar, you have a larger window of time to get through safely. The final thing to practice is getting the curve to the left or right of the H-shaped piece. It's fastest not to touch it at all, but that takes pretty sharp timing. Remember that if you hit the front of the H's legs, as it were, you won't get teleported and can continue your run. Use the strafe keys, either A to the left or a D to the right, to get around this curve. Use your mouse as you strafe. Turn it left when you use A and turn it right when you use D. After the booster, you've got smooth riding for quite a ways. Just hold forward, ride the wall for the duration of this piece, and jump onto the edge that crosses the water. Slightly before it ends, about here, start holding the strafe towards the staircase, whichever side you're on. Let go of the forward key so that you have plenty of time to get over into line with the staircase. After you've practiced and played around with the timings, you may decide to keep holding forward here. This is the approach from the other side of the map, the right side. Now there are two possible cases. The first, and most likely, is that you'll be going as fast as the trigger push will take you. In that case, you should tap the backwards key for a second or two just before you make the jump over the breaking floor. As you make the jump, start holding the forward key. Again, you should practice different timings until you find one consistent that you're comfortable with. The second case is that you got a great boost and bunny hopped so that the angle up onto the first side piece pushed you into the ceiling. If you let yourself fall and don't jump, you will be slowed down gently, and there isn't a problem. If you want to get through it faster, you can bunny hop again instead of just letting yourself slow down by hitting the ground and staying on it. In this case, you'll need to hold the back key on the wall ride or soon after you get off of it to keep from overjumping the bridge with too much speed. You may not even have enough space at that speed to get over into line with the bridge. Keep in mind that the timings on this are not split-second accuracy. There's a fair amount of leniency in the ramp to bridge jump. The best thing for you to do is practice it to see what works for you. Here's an imaginary line where I hold the back key for about half a second, then begin holding forward. The purpose of hitting the back key is to get your speed to where you know exactly what it is. It's very difficult to judge whether you have enough or too much if you hold forward or tap forward to get up the ramp. You have to be going faster than the trigger push normally pushes you to get the ramp to bridge jump, so you have to hold or tap forward to get that extra needed speed. As an alternative, you may choose to bank toward the center of the map early by going through the water path. Simply hold crouch and jump while in contact with the water to get through it. It is impossible to control your speed in the water though, so you have to make any speed corrections after leaving it, which is a rather small space. That's why I almost never take the water path, because it's not any faster without a very good start boost, and it makes the timing for the speed control you'll need for the staircase much more difficult and inconsistent. You should be holding forward up the ramp, onto the bridge, and into the next section. The final part, I've referred to it as being very easy throughout the video. It is, but I'll detail it anyway. Because you're still holding forward, you have plenty of speed to get through these windows. If you struggle with them, do it at 50% speed. This will make the breakdown and the transfer from side to side much easier.
because you have more time to judge the angles and your speed. As you go off the ramp, you'll leave the trigger push, so you now have a free range of motion using your strafes. Pick which side you'll take. I almost always do the left one. That side, you should start holding that strafe just before you pass through the first window. Strafe until you face about 50 degrees in the direction you've chosen. Begin holding down the opposite strafe just before you pass through the second window. Hold that strafe and turn around 50 degrees in the opposite direction, making a 100-degree rotation total. As a final step, you can either just hit the back arrow to stop yourself, or you can continue your curve gently so that you still land on the M platform. Be careful not to fall off. And congratulations, you've finished the map. I sincerely thank you for watching this video. I've put a lot of time and effort into it and hope that it's been a great help to you in your Sliderace career. As I have said before, if you struggle, use 50% speed. It makes everything easier, because you've got more time to see, process, and react to things. If you have any questions at all, leave a comment on this video and I'll do my best to answer you adequately. Like, share, and subscribe for virtual cookies.